Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message that I want to share with you, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. So the translation of that message, it reads like this. Hello, my brother, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I am a man who is currently staying here in South Africa. It is me and my wife. So when I came here to South Africa, I then became friends with this other guy who was also from Zim. I became friends with him, and when I became friends with him, so was my wife becoming a friend to his wife as well. We were like the closest of friends. So what we used to do is that we used to help each other. If I had any problems, like when I was looking for money, I would go and he would borrow me some money. This is the way that we used to live our lives. So it then happened that this guy and his wife, he then came to my place where I was staying with my wife at that time. Him and his wife, they were looking for money. This was after they had received the sad news of the passing away of my friend's father. And when we heard that his father back home in Zim had passed away, we felt so sorry for him, because we knew that since he was the only breadwinner in the family, if we were not going to help him, there was no one that was going to assist him. So when they came, already they knew that we were on our way going to Zim, and we had some money in our room. So we then ended up giving them the 10,000 rands that we had, the one that we wanted to use for our trip returning back to Zim. There was no way that we were going to deny him this money, because as our closest friends, they knew that we had this money with us. So my friend, after I had given him the money, he then said that he was not going to spend a very long time there in Zim. He said that once his father had been buried, then he was going to return back to South Africa. So I was happy with the fact that it was him alone that was going to Zim to attend the funeral, since he said that he didn't have a lot of money. So I knew that if anything was going to go wrong, then his wife was going to pay us back this money. But my brother, after we had given him this 10,000 rands, they then left together, him and his wife. I spoke with my wife and I said, no, it is okay. They will soon be back in South Africa and they will give us our money. But when they went to Zim, they never communicated with us for the many months that they ended up spending in Zim. When I heard that he had returned back in that location where I was staying, I then went to his place and I confronted him. I asked him why he was not in communication with me, yet he knew that he owed me a lot of money, and I had sacrificed a lot by me not going to Zim at that time when I wanted to return back home, because I wanted to assist him, because we knew that he was our friend. But he said that he was afraid to tell me that he didn't have transport money to return back to South Africa, because I was the only one who could borrow him money again. And since he was owing me a lot of money, he knew that this was not a good thing for him to do. I said that it is fine, but he kept on giving me empty promises, and each and every time when I would ask him about my money, it would be like I was the one who was wrong. He would become so violent towards me whenever I would say, when are you going to give me back my money? So it then happened that, women, what they are like. My wife then went and confronted him, and my wife then asked him why he didn't want to give us our money back. So this guy, he then said that simply because your wife came to ask me for this money that I am owing you, I am not going to give you now, but I am going to give you once I have gotten this money. But I don't know when I am going to give you this money, because your wife, the way that she spoke with me, I didn't like it. So it then happened that me and my wife, we then traveled back to Zim. So when we traveled back to Zim, that was when my wife told me this idea of us visiting this traditional healer so that we can be given some charms. Initially, what I wanted to do was to go to Chipinge, but my wife said that even locally we could actually get a healer and she knew someone that was going to assist us. So me and my wife, we ended up getting on the bus and we went to that traditional healer that was from Malawi who assisted us. This healer said that he wanted to teach this friend of mine a great lesson so that he can know that you cannot just borrow someone's money and then you do not return back the money to that person where you would have borrowed the money from. So what this traditional healer told us to do was that we were supposed to write his name on a piece of paper, and that traditional healer handed me this glass bottle. It was an empty glass bottle, and we then placed his name that we had written on that piece of paper, including the surname as well. After that, he then gave me an onion and he said that I was supposed to slice it, but the way that I was supposed to slice it, I was not supposed to slice it completely. I had to make some holes on that onion so that it would be possible for us to insert some pieces of paper, and on those small pieces of paper that we had cut out, we were supposed to write anything that we wanted to happen to our friends, the ones that were owing us money, the ones who were saying that they do not want to give us the money anymore. So we then wrote their names and the curses, and we started placing those folded pieces of paper inside that onion. As for my wife, Brother Nash, what surprised me is that whilst we were sitting at that shrine, I then asked my wife to show me all the curses that she had wrought, all the bad things that she wanted to happen to these guys that were owing us money. As for me, all that I had written was that please just give me my money. But my wife, she totally refused. She folded all those pieces of paper. She then quickly placed them inside that onion, and we then started fighting and we were just arguing, and that man said that his oracle was a peaceful oracle and we were not supposed to argue whilst we were consulting with him. So we stopped quarreling. My wife was then given that onion that had all the curses placed inside of it, and she was told by that traditional healer that she had to seek out a place whereby it is always wet all the times, in an area where it is always wet so that it can grow. She was told that even if she was going to plant it by the riverside, it will be good. So me and my wife, we then returned back to our village. My wife had been told that she had to wait for her own period. When she will be on her period, that was when she was supposed to take this onion and go and plant it by the side of the river. So after she would have planted this onion, then it meant that our friends that we had left in South Africa, they were supposed to suffer. And the way that this guy was supposed to suffer, he would suffer so much and he would visit a lot of healers, but he would never get anyone that would be willing to assist him. And at the end of the day, he was then supposed to return back to that healer, the one who had assisted us. So me and my wife, we then returned back to South Africa. It then happened that one day when I was just walking around in that location where I was staying with my wife, I then came across this former friend of mine, now turned enemy, and the way that he greeted me, it was in a very weird way. And I said, why is this guy greeting me in such a weird way? And his behavior was like that of someone that is losing his mind. And what happened is that in January, what happened was that in January, the wife was just walking around and she was hit by a car. Then she passed away. She passed away in January. So this guy, he then traveled back to Zim so that he can bury his wife. And when he returned back to South Africa, I then started hearing people saying that he was no longer normal, even though this guy is running mad. And I have spoken with my wife about this issue, because this is not what I wanted to happen to this guy, even though he robbed me of my money. But my wife has since refused to tell me the curses that she wrote, the curses that she placed on him. As for me, it was not my intention for his wife to die. All that I wanted was nothing but a peaceful solution. But I know that my wife is lying to me, and I am scared of what will happen now that someone has passed away. What if these charms will become powerless? Whenever I try to have a peaceful conversation with my wife about this issue, then my wife will end up getting really angry, and she says that let us divorce because I do not want to talk about this issue anymore. Currently, I am thinking of returning back to Zim with my wife, but what she doesn't know is that what I am planning is that when I return back home to Zim, I am going to threaten to kill her with an axe unless she shows me exactly where she planted that onion that contains those curses that we wrote on the pieces of papers. Please judge me, but I am a peaceful man. All that I wanted was for that friend of mine to give me back my money. I wanted a peaceful solution, but it is really sad that his wife had to die in such a way, and now he is a man that is losing his mind, just like that traditional healer said it will happen to him. He was going to suffer, and after he has suffered for so many years, he will return back to him. That healer said that the money that I am going to get at the end of the day, it is more than the amount that this man owes me, because when he will return back to that traditional healer, the healer is going to charge him a lot of money so that he can cure him from this mental illness that he is suffering from. Dear listeners, right there was a message that I received. Then we had to give you this translation. That was the narration of that translation of a voice note that I received. Yo,